Hey Shannon, can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Thanks for the sound check.
Okay, can everyone see the agenda now?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. Good morning. Is everyone excited for Christmas?
Yes.
Good. And is your grandbaby excited?
Oh, yes.
I'm excited for our new Missouri Evergreen Executive Director to begin. I've had 8 Missouri Evergreen meetings this week. So I'm very excited for the new Missouri Evergreen Executive Director to begin.
Yes, we certainly need it.
I can understand that, Shannon. You've had a number of things to do this week, haven't you?
Yes, welcome, Mickey. I'm glad you're here.
Yes, glad I'm here also.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi,
Good
Kate.
morning.
Hey, Kate.
Guys, I'm so stoked for Christmas. I have my last assignments due tonight, and then after that, I'm gonna do Christmas, every minute of every day till Christmas Day. I just can't wait.
That's a great plan.
Thank you. My daughter, it's her last Christmas home. She'll be moving off to college next fall, so we are gonna Christmas it up. I believe the Missouri Evergreen cataloger will be joining us today as well. I don't see him just yet, but I'm pretty sure he plans to attend today.
Did Greg get his camera issues worked out, Shannon?
Not that I know of. He said it was related to a Windows 11 upgrade he had performed, and that he was having several different issues related to that upgrade. Ah, he's here. Good morning, Greg. I was just talking about you.
I know my ears were burning. Hey, I've actually got everything up and running now.
Awesome.
It did take me about 3 or 4 days to get through all of the little glitches that my computer was having after Windows 11 was uploaded. But I
Wow.
think I got through them all now.
Since you said that, I will not be upgrading to Windows 11 anytime soon.
I don't really see a whole lot of changes with it. The only thing I've noticed is that the layout, of course, is a little different. And sometimes now it's harder to find some things that were very, very easy to find initially. So
You are not a Windows 11 salesman.
no.
It's
Well,
not
and
really
usually
good.
what I do when they come up with these upgrades is I wait like a year for them to get all their bugs out and then I upgrade. But I took the plunge this time just because I'd bought a new computer in the last 4 months and thought, oh, it'll be able to handle it. No big deal.
That's what we do with Evergreen. We try to upgrade 6 months to a year past its latest version to let all the bugs kind of get corrected and fixed before we upgrade. It's a good plan. Works well. Okay, well, I have 10 a.m. on the dot, so I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Want to welcome everyone to the meeting and thank you for being here this morning. I did send out the minutes to our October meeting this morning about 8 a.m. And I just wanted to open the floor for discussion on those minutes. Does anyone see any additions or corrections to the minutes that were sent this morning? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the
I move-
minutes. Kate, was that you?
I move to, I move to accept the minutes as given.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Kate and Colleen. Any further
Mhm.
discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, wonderful. So I have a really quick executive committee report this morning. First, welcome Mickey Colwell to Missouri Evergreen as the executive director. We are so excited. His official first day is January 3rd, but I think he's been putting in almost 40-hour work weeks since we talked to him last. Mickey is
Well, there's a lot of prep as, yeah.
and Mickey attended Amigos Resource Sharing Conference this week. Is that
Yes.
right? Is that the right
Yes.
name, Mickey?
Facing the future of resource sharing. Yes, excellent conference.
Yeah, wonderful. And we have equipped him with some Missouri Evergreen equipment, and he has sat in on the reciprocal borrowing agreement meeting yesterday. And I think he will be, as we all know, Mickey has a strong background from MALA and from resource sharing and consortiums in Kansas. So I think he brings a lot to the table, and I'm super excited for him to begin January 3rd and look forward to some experience he brings to the consortium that will help us shape Missouri Evergreen moving forward and help us hopefully achieve the strategic plan that we recently adopted just a few months ago. So welcome, Mickey. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Well, thank you, Shannon, and thank you to the search committee and the executive committee for your faith in me, which I hope I can live up to. It's been a great experience reconnecting with so many Missouri librarians that I served as the MALA director. And so it's great to be sort of back home with the folks that I care about and the things I care about. So I look forward to taking some of the load off of you, Shannon, and the rest of the executive committee, because I know you've been doing all of this on your own, and honestly, you have jobs already, and this is one more on top of everything. So hopefully starting in January, I can take some of the load off, and I would encourage you all to let me know what I can do to ease the burden, particularly with those of you who are involved in committee work and such. I will be able to take a lot of that on as the year progresses. So thank you and welcome to me.
Wonderful. New member updates. Cedar County did come online on November the 4th. They had a director, I think we discussed this in October, if I'm not mistaken, but they did have a change in director during their migration, and they had to rebarcode their entire collection and issue new library cards to all their patrons. So they weren't quite ready to start resource sharing on November 4th because of that. We did just get an update on the rebarcoding process, and I think they're I'd say about 85 to 90% complete. So they will begin resource sharing on January 10th. So I just kind of wanted to that's one of the reasons, if you're placing holds on Cedar County items and getting weird error messages, that's why those items won't start resource sharing until January. Reynolds County goes live on January 20th. We will be on site. Josh Lamb from Poplar Bluff, myself, Ron Eifert from Sykeston, and Greg Whitmore, the consortium cataloger, will be on site at Reynolds County Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week, helping them add items live to production. If you recall, Reynolds County was not automated, so they're not migrating in any data. They're going to issue new cards to patrons and add all their items directly onto Missouri Evergreen production. So we'll be there next week to start that process. Rawls County did get their award granted. They will start rebarcoding and migrating. In fact, they had their kickoff meeting just this week. We have one rebarcoding unit here at Poplar Bluff that we'll be sending out to Rawls to start their rebarcoding process. Their migration team is Little Dixie, And Rachel and her staff will go on site at Rawls to help them through the rebarcoding process, I think in early January. And their date to go live, I don't have it on this agenda, but it's March 24th. And finally, St. Joseph Public Library signed their MOU and sent it in. So very excited to see that. They're still under contract for about another year with their current ILS, and they'll go live sometime. I put on here May 2023, but that's really tentative. We're just thinking summer of 2023. I believe their contract ends like September of 2023 with the current ILS. So we'll be working through that process a little bit later. So we still have one migration spot open for FY22. Our fiscal year ends August 31st. We will do our upgrade to the new version. Someone have something to add?
Oh, no, this is Steve. I just unmuted myself, so I do want to add something about, I was going to talk to them a little bit about Hannibal and the other libraries we had talked to, but I'm going to wait. Sorry.
No, okay. We will do, right now our upgrade is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, April 20th. Equinox said they didn't want to give us a set date just yet because they want to be sure they work around the International Evergreen Conference in April. But that's the date that I've requested. So as long as the conference isn't that same week, that's the date we'll go on the next version of Missouri Evergreen, which we think will be version 3.8, as I think what they're going to move us to in April. So if you guys have any questions about that version, or if you've seen anything that you would rather not move to 3.8, let me know before April, and we'll meet again in February. So kind of be looking at those release notes. And some of our members are really great about watching bugs and issues with the current release. So if you see anything, please share so we can discuss whether or not we want to move to 3.8 in April.
Shannon, when I honestly don't know what version we're on our test server, but we need to get 3.8 on there as soon as we can.
Okay, we're on 3.6.4, I think, Kate.
Okay.
I'll make a note of that and ask them when we'll have it on the test server. That pen doesn't write. Okay, I'll find out when they'll put the test server to the upgraded version, and then I'll email the membership. That's a good point. So Reynolds will go live in January. Rawls will go live in March. We'll upgrade in April, and that will give us like May 1 through August 31st on this fiscal year 2022 to fill that last migration spot. Steve, do you want to go ahead and add about Hannibal now that we've...
Yeah, well, two things, or three things, I guess. So we met with Hannibal, the director there, Hallie at MLA, Colleen, Shannon and I did. We had a really good conversation. It sounded like she wants to join, the Hannibal Library wants to join, which is great. I think ideally she wants to go in the fall of next year. We're kind of trying to convince her to, I'm driving right now between meetings, so if I lose my signal, I apologize. But Shannon, was this, I don't have the agenda in front of me. Am I jumping ahead? I don't mean to cover
No.
the majority's been.
No,
Okay.
Now's the perfect time.
Okay. So anyway, so they only have 10-digit barcodes. So they do not have any conflicts. I think there were 4 conflicts or 6 conflicts, Shannon said, with our existing database. But, we have the rule we had passed saying, I think a library have either 13 or 14 digits. I don't know. So they would have to rebarcode. There was a possibility we were trying to talk to them about being our 5th migration spot this year. But when we found out we had to rebarcode them, then Hallie was, concerned about that. Although Shannon did email me asking a question, basically saying, now that they don't have to rebarcode, should we ask the board whether or not we want to give them an exception if it meant that they could migrate this year, because they don't have any conflicts in their in the system right now. So there could be future conflicts. So that was an issue we need to eventually talk about, I guess. But also, I just was communicating with Stacy Embry this morning, who is the director of Morgan County, and she is presenting it to her board, the MOU, either today or tomorrow night. I can't remember if it's today or tomorrow night, to join. She said her board is wanting to do it. Her staff's a little nervous, but she was asking me for some final information and questions. So I sent her the member library survey we did for strategic planning in the spring, showing satisfaction with the consortium. And I also sent her our strategic plan, which addresses some of the concerns that were in that survey. So it sounds like I'm rather certain they will be joining, and they're going to be a migration for 2022, 2023 as well. The other library we had spoken to was Missouri River Regional. Claudia Cook is the director. She is a member of Mobius right now, the academic consortium. She's one of the couple public libraries that are part of that. She originally, MLA, was acting like it was a done deal and that they were going to join. It was going to save her $60,000 a year moving from Mobius to Evergreen. And she felt like there was more of what her patrons wanted in Evergreen than in Mobius. Then, unfortunately, she spoke with Gina Gockley at Joplin and got a little scared due to Gina saying that the reporting module was terrible and things like that. Now, I did send Claudia the member survey I talked about, and then also the strategic plan. And I did not talk to her after, but I sent her those documents telling her, look, our members are very satisfied with the consortium. I said the reporting module is a concern. I said, if you want, I can have you talk to Equinox and get a demo of what they're working on for us. We spent $10,000 and another consortium spent money as well to improve the reporting module. Shannon sent me the handout showing some screenshots of what the reporting module is going to be turned into. But as it stands right now, Merle, which would be a gigantic addition for us, seems to be on the fence about joining. So there's that. And so I don't know if I need to reach out to her now that I've sent her all that information and kind of maybe try to continue to persuade her in our direction. It would be an enormous cost saving for her, but I guess she's nervous now after talking to Joplin, because as you know, Joplin did a RFP and they decided against Evergreen. That they didn't even make us a finalist because of the system. Now, one of the problems with that, if I cut out, by the way, please let me know, because I am driving through some very bad area right now in my district, but can everyone still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna actually pull over so I don't lose this signal here. So Joplin, they didn't even consider us the top three. The problem we thought with that was that it was Equinox doing that demo versus the consortium. So they focused exclusively or primarily on the ILS itself, not the consortium and the resource sharing. And as a result, we feel like the presentation to Joplin really missed out on a lot of the benefits of Missouri Evergreen. So as you all know, we've changed that since then, and now we do the demos ourselves. And we focus a lot on resource sharing and the other benefits of the consortium. So Joplin kind of did teach us a lesson, but I'm also concerned, not that I have anything, Gina's a friend of mine, I don't have anything against Gina, but if libraries are contacting Joplin, asking them why they didn't join, and they're telling them things like this, and we went, and as a result, we had Claudia go from being, this is gonna be great, I can't wait to join, to now I'm on the fence. That's a big problem, So I guess we need to do some damage control with Merle and continue to work on her. Another library I spoke to while I was at MPLD was Ozark Regional. Michelle Swain used to be the head of the circulation committee when they were part of Evergreen. They stayed on Evergreen, but they pulled out of the consortium for a myriad of strange reasons, in my opinion. She told me, now that you are director now, the director who had pulled them out has retired. I asked her whether or not she was going to migrate. I said, that'd be a really easy migration because they're already on Evergreen and they're just not doing the resource sharing. She said that because she's a new director, she was going to wait at least 3 months before she made any decisions or changed anything. And so that's where they stand. I do think we need to reach out to them again and try to work on them. They would be a very, very easy way to fill our migration slot this year. Now we're going to receive some resistance from Mobius on this, because I know when we had approached Christian County, who is, I guess, on some consortium through Mobius, the old Cool Library or something, Cool Consortium, Mobius had a fit that we were trying to take libraries away from them. So I assume that with Merle and with them being in Mobius, as well as Ozark Regional with being on Evergreen, I'm sure that Mobius will be furious as well and will be lobbying them hard to remain. And they will not be very happy with us. So there is that to have to worry about. I'm sure they're exerting pressure on their end to keep them. So it's not just a situation of trying to convince a library board or a library director. It's a situation of also trying to, be at odds with the consortium or the company that's maintaining the Mobius right now, also exerting that pressure as well. So that's my update on my, is there any other libraries that have any ideas on, or libraries that have shown interest? Please let us know. That's all I got. Sorry, Shannon, for the long speech.
No, thank you for adding that, because I do think we need to be informed on where we're moving with recruitment. It's a big part of the consortium, and we all know that that's one of our main goals. So
I
any
would just
questions for Steve?
Yeah, I would just recommend following. We need to make a concerted effort, more than just me, to talk to Claudia again, and also talk to Michelle Swain at Ozark Regional again, and push them here after the first of the year toward possibly getting that MOU approved.
I can do that. I can reach out to both of them. I did talk to Michelle Swain briefly at MPLD, but she was very hesitant to discuss, is what it seemed like to me, the idea of moving. So I didn't pursue it very much. So any questions for Steve?
I guess I did not care about that hesitancy, I suppose.
Any questions or any other updates from libraries expressing interest in Missouri Evergreen? Okay, thanks, Steve, for that update. I really do appreciate it. The last few things I have on the executive committee report, we filed our 990 tax return. I sent that in the approval into Amigos just this week. We have received a couple of our grant payments for FY22, just a little under $50,000. And the last thing is that our next meeting will be February 10th at 10 a.m. Any questions for the executive committee on any items on the agenda this morning? If not, I'll turn it over to Sue Lightfoot, Horeen, and Amigos on the financial reports. Sue, are you on the call this morning? She is not. I wonder if I have an Amigos rep.
I'm here. This is
Hi,
Keith.
Keith. Hi, Keith.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh, fine. I'll just give you a quick summary. As of November 30th, y'all had $313,000 in assets. $37,000 of the $313,000 is uncollected accounts receivable, which is kind of high for you all. Usually your receivables are relatively low. So I need to talk to Sue about, well, what if we need to send out overdue notices to some of your folks. As you mentioned, your grant payments are now up to $49,000. Overall, your total revenue for the year is $214,000, and your expenses are about $94,000. So your P&L statement is about $104,000 positive right now, which is very good. But I suspect you have some other expenses coming in that will reduce that number.
See Sue.
I'm sorry.
I see Sue on the call
Oh,
now.
okay. I'll let Sue take over then if she wants.
No reason. Go ahead,
Oh,
Keith.
okay.
Go ahead.
All right.
Okay. Okay. I didn't want to steal your thunder, Sue.
Sorry, Sue.
As Shannon mentioned, we filed your 990. You all, I think I've mentioned this many times before, but you all can no longer file a 990 EZ because your revenue is too large. Or your 990N, which was your postcard. You have to be under 50,000 to do a 990N. I think you have to be under 250,000 for an EZ. So your revenue has exceeded that. So you're filing a full 990 return now, which your auditor's prepared for you, which is Jack Beard in Columbia, which is just down the street from Mobius. I kind of rambled, but
No, not at all. Any questions for Amigos or for Sue about the financial reports through November 30th, 2021? No. Okay. Back to you. Then we'll turn it over to committee reports, starting with cataloging committee. Nate, are you here?
I am here.
Wonderful. Okay.
So it looks like the first thing we have here on the agenda is regarding the cataloging policy. While we were working with Greg on preparing the materials for our certification training, he had pointed out that there are some issues with the language in our existing cataloging policy, particularly regarding the levels and differences between our more experienced catalogers and those that do not have the full training. Currently in the policy, we refer to those as level 1 and level 2. And actually level 1 being the ones with the more experience versus level 2 being those that are maybe newer to cataloging and don't have the full training. And we just found that to be a little bit confusing, especially as we're trying to transfer that over into training. And so we made some revisions to the policy, specifically replacing some of that language, replacing the lower level of those with entry level or beginner, depending on whether or not we're talking about a person. So entry level cataloger and basic cataloging, and then advanced for the more experienced of those two. Additionally, there are a few changes in a table below there that just kind of help clarify and clean up some of the permissions that we are suggesting for each level. I think there is maybe just 1 or 2 changes down there. Yeah, I think we can combined one of those to include, edit holdings, call numbers, and item level data altogether. And then above that, bibliographic records was already covered. And so we just add monograph parts. So those are all the suggested changes that we hope would help clarify some of the confusion as we are trying to move forward with our certification training.
So this is a recommendation from the cataloging committee, so it doesn't require a second. We just need to take a vote, if I understand correctly, since it's coming out of committee. So is there any discussion about the changes suggested by the cataloging committee before we call the vote? No? Okay. Well, all those in favor in adopting the revised cataloging policy?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Shannon, do you need a second? If you need a second to that, then I can be your second, but
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thanks so much. We'll move on to the next. Oh,
Okay, I have the agenda up here as well. So the second thing on there we have is cataloger certification training. Earlier this week, we met with Shannon and Mickey to kind of members of the cataloging committee, including Greg, met with Shannon and Mickey to kind of discuss the progress of the training and kind of where we were and how things stand right now, and discuss some of the logistics of how this is going to look going forward once we do want to launch the program. And after that meeting, we have both documents for our basic and advanced cataloging training pretty much complete. We are, of course, fine tuning that as we are going through and making edits. Greg has done a great job of putting all that together. Additionally, he's already started putting together some of our training videos, which are also going to live on YouTube as through different playlists for each of those training levels. So we'll be able to have those offered both, in writing, in person, as well as having the option to do that asynchronously and virtually. So hoping to have all this done by February to kind of introduce this at our February meeting for the membership. And by then like I said, we're hoping to have at least the virtual components completed so that everyone can kind of get started on getting that taken care of and getting that requirement out of the way. And then the last thing I have here is just talking about the cataloging help desk email to kind of help spread the love of emails that the cataloging committee or the cataloging chair receives. We've kind of put together a cataloging help email account and that is cathelp@moevergreenlibraries.org. And so this is just an email address outside of the listserv where catalogers can ask questions that maybe they don't want to pose to the entire listserv for a number of reasons. So if anybody has questions that specifically would be helpful to send on to one of the cataloging committee members, they can reach out to cathelp@moevergreenlibraries.org.
Kind of like a cataloging
I have a
help desk.
question. I have a question. This is
Yeah.
Steve.
Hey, Steve.
I'm probably cutting out badly at this point, but you mentioned they wouldn't want to post that to the regular cataloging listserv for a number of reasons. I'm just curious, like, can I have one or two examples? I just
Sure.
would like to know. Just
Sure,
an
like
FYI.
lack of confidence in their own skills. Maybe they don't want to seem like they are not certain of their own ability. Maybe they think somebody else did something wrong and they want to double check and maybe have me reach out to that individual to kind of help clarify some things. Those are just two that come to mind at the time.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Mhm.
So Nate,
Go ahead.
you'll be monitoring that email?
Yes, that email goes out to all members of the cataloging committee. And we did it in this way so that, not all of us are always available, and we want to make sure that people get their questions answered in as timely of a manner as possible. And then lastly on here, I see that we posted the next meeting date. Actually, I sent out an email to the cataloging listserv that the December meeting was canceled just due to a lack of
Availability.
things to discuss. So our actual next meeting will be January 10th, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Okay,
Thank you,
and
Nate.
that is all I have.
Any questions for Nate or for the cataloging committee? The cataloging committee's been working very hard, and I just want to say thank you for all their hard work in preparing working with Greg to prepare this certification process that we'll be launching. As Nate mentioned, we hope to have that before the membership in February and begin the virtual asynchronous option of completing certification training. And then in the spring, we hope to do some live in-person trainings around the state, both in terms of cataloging certification and also circulation and other Missouri Evergreen topics. So that's what we hope to launch in maybe April and May of 2022. So hopefully we'll have more information at our February meeting on those in-person trainings. If there's no other,
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Nate did something great for the consortium this morning. You want to talk about the changes you made this morning, Nate?
Sure, I can bring that up as well. Recently, there was a official change made with the Library of Congress subject headings in which illegal aliens and pretty much all the offshoots on that were replaced with more appropriate language. So I went through the catalog this morning to batch edit a lot of those records to make sure that those updates were made as quickly as possible. So of course, a lot of the changes, including, illegal aliens is now represented with non-citizens. Children of illegal aliens is now children of non-citizens. And oddly enough, I also discovered that a lot of us were inappropriately using the term aliens in the first place in place of extraterrestrial beings. So I had to do some cleanup there as well. So basically, yeah, we just did some database cleanup this morning using the batch editor to update all of those subject headings.
That's
And
fantastic.
for those of you in the know, this change that finally came down through Library of Congress has been in the making for 10 years. They finally took it out of committee and passed it. And once it was passed, it happened really quickly. So everybody in the cataloging world has a big sigh of relief that it's finally over.
Any questions for the cataloging committee? No? Thanks so much, Nate. I appreciate you providing your report this morning. Circulation committee, I believe Meredith is not with us this morning. Diane, are you?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you.
Yes, Meredith is out of town, so I'm going to speak for the circulation committee. We had a couple of libraries contact us about adding a new adding new patron permission groups, which has started us thinking it's time to examine how permission groups are being used. There are currently 18 patron permission groups. And we think probably some of the permission groups are being used for statistical purposes as opposed to actually granting patrons permissions. So you might have a non-resident that has the same permissions as a resident, but you're registering them differently. So permission groups are probably not being used exactly as they should be used. And we're going to be asking each library which permission groups they are using for permissions, and doing some educating about beginning to use statistical categories instead of permissions to get stats from. Because, like I said, we have 18 permission groups now, and we've been asked to add 2 more. We recently added minor and collections. I think those are the 2 we recently added so that we could give actual permissions to these 2 kinds of groups. We've been asked to add a fine-free permission groups. One library wanted to not charge fines to their senior citizens. So if they could register them as in a fine-free permission group, and those fees would never accrue to those accounts. And a library asked for an institution permission group so that an institution could have separate permissions from the other residents, or other patrons rather. There's already a permission group for school. So I'm wondering if we could change school to institution, unless someone was going to give a school set of permissions and a nursing home a different set of permissions, that kind of a thing. If we could just roll that all into one institution permission group. And so that is what I am proposing today. I've got 3 things in mind: to add a permission group for fine-free, to change school to institution. That's what would need to be voted on today. And then just to let you know, we're going to be contacting each library to see how they're using permission groups. There's a student permission group, and there's a county students permission group, and there's a college student permission group, and there's a homeschooler permission group. So if a student is actually going to have something that they can do or can't do that other patrons can't do, then we need a student permission group. We maybe don't need 4. And if you're just using student to differentiate between a kid and an adult, then that's a statistical category as opposed to a permission group.
I have a question, Diane. This is Dan.
Yes, Dan.
So you were talking about how maybe the school would overlap with the institutional permission group, but I do know that there are libraries that have different rules for schools and institutions. Like they may have agency accounts that have a different checkout or different fine structures in that permission group. Would that be a conflict? Would there be another option for them if we changed school to institution? I'm trying to think of what's most usable for everyone.
Yeah, so if someone is using school for one thing and wants to have different permissions for an institution, then we just have to add a new permission group.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that's going on places.
Oh yeah, yeah. I thought you were proposing right now to change school to institution.
I was, because I'm a
okay.
head kind of person. But if you think that's going to conflict, then we could just add a new permission group of institution and leave school where it is.
Well, I think we could. I don't like having an overabundance of permission groups. I think maybe we could, do some research and see, like the libraries that may see an advantage to this, like, are they already using school or would it be the same? And we could see what other libraries are doing. I know that that'll take longer, but I feel like just adding institution in addition to school or just changing it, I think that both of those right now would be too much. The fine-free one, I think, has some benefits. We're already fine-free, but I know a lot of libraries aren't. I think the school institution thing, I don't know. I think that maybe we could look into it more before making that decision. And that's just my opinion. So people, you know.
So I don't remember which library it was that wanted institution. If you're on the call, if you want that to be added now.
It was Poplar Bluff. We're starting corporate library cards. And so we had recommended corporate, but I like institution better because I think that's more broad and more useful for more groups. So we'd be willing to wait for, we can find a workaround until the committee had more time to explore what libraries are doing, so we can make a more informed decision on how to best proceed with adding a permission group. We're okay with that.
Okay.
So we would do something in the interim until the committee had more time to look into this. We're okay with that. So,
Okay. So, but how does everybody feel about adding fine free then? Does that sound reasonable to everyone?
and that one's actually coming from Reynolds County. That came out of a migration phone call. They have a special permission for seniors, and they don't charge fines for their seniors, so.
And before we went fine free, we had 2 different permission groups that were fine free. We just separated them out. I mean, if we were still not fine free, I could see us using that.
Gotcha.
But since we've already made that change, it doesn't make a difference to me and Cass County, but I can see the value in that.
Agreed. So right now what we're thinking is add fine free as a permission group and table institution, and either changing school to institution or adding an institution profile permission group until our next meeting, after we have more time to gather information from our members.
Yes.
I have that right? Okay. Any discussion on that? If not, do we want that to stand as a formal motion, Diane?
Yes, please.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I will. Sue will.
Thank you, Sue. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Okay, so I will ask Equinox to add that for us. And I will be contacting you, someone at your library, until I get answers to the question, how are you using these 18 permissions? And can you change that to statistical category? And I've already talked to a couple libraries who have not been using statistical categories. So that's going to be a new thing for them to institute, to try to be using permissions the way they're supposed to be used and statistics the way they're supposed to be used. I go through this with new staff here all the time, and I like look into my eyes. A permission group gives a patron permission. A statistical category is used for reports.
Diane, do you think we should send maybe a video with that out to the membership about what the difference is between permission groups and statistical categories? Because I know we at Poplar Bluff, we're not using statistical categories, and we had very little knowledge on even how to configure them or set them up. So I don't know if it wouldn't, before you ask questions, maybe a video that lets the members know it's it's an option, and then they might be more prepared to answer your question then.
Okay. Good idea.
At Polk, we're not using statistical categories either, Diane. And really, until I went through the Equinox training for Cedar County, I wasn't even aware really how they worked and how they were different than permission groups. So I think we need to back up and start there before we start with, but you also do need to do the research on what everybody is using as their permission groups. But I was not aware up until the last few months of what statistical categories did and didn't do.
That's very good information, because it shows that there was a gap in our initial training.
Yes.
That maybe some of us just got cottoned onto because we dug into it real deeply and found out there are these different options. And if you don't know something, you don't even know what to ask.
We don't know what we don't know.
Exactly. So this is all very good information. Thank you.
Any other update from the circulation committee, Diane, this morning?
No,
There's
we're still-
actually is Meredith from the car, if you guys can hear me.
Yes.
I snuck in like a ninja. I did want to throw out there that we did have a very productive meeting of the damages best practices working group. We found some language from other libraries that we like to kind of finesse that some, and we're working on collating pictures of the examples, and hopefully we'll have something to bring to the CERT committee meeting in January and to the board hopefully in February.
Wonderful. Any questions for Meredith or the CERT committee about that best practices document they're drafting? I think we're excited to see that.
Thank you, Diane, for being my voice while I can go while driving and taking that project as a point person.
Yes, drive carefully.
Thank you.
And I
Our
may
next
have the
meeting-
next, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, our next meeting, we meet on the third Tuesday at 11 o'clock. So that should be January the 8th. We're not meeting this month for obvious reasons. Everybody will be gathered around the tree.
So my next goal is to get a meeting calendar posted to the Missouri Evergreen website so that we can be more up to date and informed on meetings, because I get them wrong in the agenda every single time I issue an agenda. So that's my next goal. I have both of them wrong this time, and I apologize for that. And hopefully we'll get a meeting calendar on the website so the committees can post those directly to the Missouri Evergreen meeting calendar, and you won't be misinformed by the chair on when the next meetings are for the committees. Any other updates from the circulation committee? No? Any questions or discussion for Diane or Meredith? Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Meredith. I appreciate it. I believe Steve Erickson is here this morning, and he's going to talk more about the Simple Reporter project. That did move to the testing phase. Steve and Kate Coleman were the Missouri Evergreen official testers for that testing section. And I'd like to see if Steve's in the meeting.
I'm here.
Wonderful, thank you.
So I spent and Kate, jump in at any time if you would like. I spent quite a bit of time in the Simple Reporter, and I think it does a good job of what it's trying to do. It's really trying to make the reporting module easier for everybody. So I mean, when you create a new report in the current module, it is intimidating to say the least. I think most of us could agree with that. On the new one, it asks you right off the bat. So you go to create a new template or a new report. It says, well, what type of report are you trying to make? And it gives you options between circulation, collections, weeding, patrons, and billing and payment transaction summaries. If you select one of those, it changes the display fields. That's what's up first. It's going to see what in the report is going to display, and it changes those fields based on which you pick. So that way you're not necessarily jumping from table to table or getting duplicates. A lot of the confusion that runs in the current module is that, you know, you can actually loop it to where you can get from one place to another place by going through different tables, and then it can't connect because the tables the reporting module basically just doesn't work that way. So this eliminates that by giving us common fields. So if I click on circulation, for instance, the very first thing underneath what I could have it display is circulation ID, patron profile group. I mean, things that due date and time, checkout library name, just really simple things that you could put over and go, oh yeah, I would like to have that in the report. I'd like to have how many renewals they have left. I'd like to see if they're the shelving location. You can add those right over there. And then it also gives you it separates it into, for circulation, it separates into item fields, patron fields, call number and title fields, libraries, and you can go down to all fields and you can see all the fields available in the circulation one. And that's the same for collections, weeding, patrons, billings, etc. The next thing it takes you to after you get that is your output order. So you can pick what order you want it to show up on the spreadsheet. And then it gets into filters, and it has suggested filters. So you could filter it by checkout library. You could filter it by due date. You could filter it by if the item's overdue or not. And then the final one is our output options, which is the same as before. It's Excel, CSV, HTML, bar chart, line chart. You can choose to run the report now. You can schedule it for later. You can make it recurring. You can send it to an email address when it runs. But all of this information set up in an easier way than what we currently have. Now, don't expect this to create miracles, I would say. So if a certain report hasn't been possible, it's not like this is necessarily going to make it possible, but it is going to make it easier to create reports from scratch, which I struggle with all the time, creating reports from scratch. I usually have to create 10 reports to get one to give me the information that I'm looking for, whereas this makes that process a lot easier. And so I think it's a lot less intimidating to look at. Does anyone have any specific questions about the simple reports? Or Kate, do you have anything to add?
I'm so glad you got to talk instead of me about it, because you did a great job. I kind of, while it is 10 times easier than the current reports module, I do still think there's a bit of a learning curve, but
there definitely is.
Yeah. If you have a template and you're like, this is great, I just wish it had this one more output or something like that. You know, this makes that so much easier. The traditional reports module will always be there. And if there is something in that traditional reports, you know, a template that's already set up, you can still go into that and look how that's set up and then make it again on this one and then add that new field or something like that. I do think that once you get used to creating one and using the simple reporter, you'll pick it up really quickly, and it'll be much quicker than what it is now. But there is still a lot of steps, and it does seem like you need to know a little bit of lingo and that kind of thing. But like I said,
Yes.
10 times easier.
And I'm hoping that in the final version, we can switch the reports between the two simultaneously. But I don't know if that's the case or not. You can't do it in this test. But I was kind of hoping that we could take existing reports and put them into the simple reporter, even if that involves the reports committee recreating them in that way they could see it either way, to be able to edit it.
Yeah, that would be great. Good
I
point.
do think that once it's live, that will be the case.
Yeah, I was thinking, I thought I couldn't tell in the documentation that I had, but it seemed like that was the case. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So just a little background, because we have a lot of new library members here today and a lot of new directors. We had two options with Equinox to develop a new report module. One was the simple reporter and one was the reports dashboard. Equinox decided to go with the simple reporter as the first module they developed. And as Steve Campbell mentioned earlier, Missouri Evergreen put $10,000 toward that project, and CWMRs invested $30,000 toward the project. They hope to launch this, I believe. My understanding is that Equinox will launch this with our upgrade in April, that this simple reporter will be in that version.
That's what I think. I think you're right, Shannon.
Okay. And so what I'm hoping is, after, as Steve and Kate have said, this one's so much easier to use than the traditional reporting module that we have now. I do think the Equinoxes, that's a hard one to say. I do think it's the intention of Equinox to go back and develop the reports dashboard, which is it's just a really nice feature, because when you go to the dashboard, most of those stats that most libraries collect are just already displayed on the dashboard as soon as you get there, and you don't have to run any reports. So that will be the next step. And I do believe that it's the intention of the board to recommend that we, Missouri Evergreen funds that project as well, with other funding partners like CWMRs, and maybe we'll have even more partners at that time to reduce the amount we have to contribute. We'll see how that goes. But I just wanted to give that background that that's the project that you see before you right now, the Simple Reporter project that we're hoping to launch in April. With that said, I'll open the floor for discussion or questions for Steve and Kate about the Simple Reporter. In the chat, Mickey said that, Steve, you would be a great ambassador to visit with Claudia at Missouri River Regional to kind of help address any of her concerns about the reports module now that we have Simple Reporter, and you've given such a great report about that. Maybe
I
we
could
can
definitely,
make that happen.
yeah, I could reach out to her.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Make that note.
All right, I could do that for sure.
Take a field trip to Jeff City.
Ooh.
That's right. Okay.
Erickson, this is Steve Campbell. Hey, when
Uh-huh.
when you do reach out and talk to her, can you give us an update by email or whatever, letting us know how the conversation went?
I can BCC you on it if you want, so you can just see the conversation if that works.
Oh, you were gonna just email her. You were gonna call her.
Well, I'm going to call her, but yeah, then if it continues through,
Oh.
yeah, I guess you're right. It'd probably be better to do that over the phone. Yeah, I was going to email her, but yeah, I can call her directly. So maybe
Okay.
I'll reach out in email and set up a time to call her so I'm not interrupting her. But yeah,
That'd be
I
great.
can.
Yeah, I just
I'll
was
update.
curious how it
I'll
goes.
update. I'll update the board. So
And oh, this is totally off subject, but while we're talking about recruiting Merle in Jeff City, another library I forgot to mention was we had talked to is it Dade County or Barton County, Shannon? The lady there.
I think it's Barton. I think it's
Barton
Barton.
County.
Yeah.
Yeah, her name slipped my mind suddenly. Anyway, she is very interested in joining. We gave her a demo down there, Scenic Regional did, when we went down to Barry Lawrence and gave a demo to like 8 libraries. And she was one of them at the time. And Carol Darrow, that's the director down there, Carol Darrow. Anyway, I just saw her MPLD and she expressed a lot of interest and said they were going to start moving ahead to start talking about approving the MOU, or at least talking to her board about it. So that's another one I didn't mention that I just talked to that said they were very interested. Okay, I'm done. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Any other questions for Steve Erickson about the reports, the Simple Reporter? Steve and Kate, thanks so much for your work on this and for agreeing to be the testers when that phase came about. I'm really excited for it. Now you gave a really great report, Steve. I appreciate it.
yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Okay. I did not reach out to the onboarding committee. So Leanne, I have you on the agenda. I know we've moved to quarterly updates there, so I'm not sure if you have something to add this morning, but I wanted to be sure I had you on the agenda just in case. Is Leanne here? She is not. Anyone from the onboarding committee have anything to add? Oh, yes, you are. Leanne, if you're,
Can you hear me now?
I can now, yes. thank
Okay,
you.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's okay.
I didn't have my microphone settings correct. Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, since we haven't really met this last month, don't really have anything new to report, but we will plan to have a meeting January 6th at 10 a.m. So
January 6th at 10 a.m.
and if anyone has anything to add to the agenda or things that we need to go over, feel free to email me and we can add that to the agenda for the upcoming meeting.
Okay. Any questions for Leanne or the onboarding committee? Okay, thank you, Leanne. So the Reciprocal Borrowing Committee did meet yesterday. Jeff Trinkle is in the meeting, so I'll ask him to give an update.
Hey, thanks, Shannon. My name's Jeff Trinkle. I'm the director of the Riverside Regional Library, and I was asked to serve as chairman for the Reciprocal Borrowing Agreement Committee. And after many technical difficulties, I was allowed to stay as chairman. So we were tasked, and the committee members were Steve Campbell, Tony Benningfield, Shannon, myself, and Stacy. I know you're here, and I'm probably going to mispronounce your last name. Is it Stacy Heisel?
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Ah, okay, well, I knew I had about a 50% chance of getting it right, so. And Jacob Johnson. And, you know, we were tasked with to review this document, and to tell you the truth, I did not know there was one. And so it was I think a valuable project to look at, and what we were hoping to do, and what we feel like we have done is reviewed it. You know, looked at some of the concerns that some of the committee members had about this, what it was, what the objectives are, and how it's being used. It's not being used by a whole lot of libraries, so we are working on a draft to revise it and to address some of the concerns we had from the members, and to make it a little bit more open and maybe hopefully more inviting for other libraries to join. Shannon, did you want me to go through the minutia of our meetings, or just let them know we're working on a draft, and that we will have obviously
Sorry, I meant to bring up the current policy and got distracted. Sorry, let me do that.
Okay.
Oh, that's right. It's under circulation. Sorry, guys. Let me
Jeff,
get there.
maybe you could talk a little bit about to the rest of the members about what reciprocity is exactly and what it means to them as libraries.
Okay, well, reciprocal borrowing is where you can physically visit a library that has joined in on this agreement, and you know, check out the different items that they make available for you. So it's a way to kind of not circumvent interlibrary loan, but maybe to make a library's materials more available to you, or more quickly available. And Mickey, is there anything else about the reciprocity that we?
Certainly, I think that it is optional, and that it is strictly a voluntary plan at this point, that people aren't expected to show reciprocity. And in some cases, reciprocity and reciprocal borrowing may be entirely irrelevant to some libraries that are in more remote locations.
Yeah, and it's a way for libraries that are closer together to be able to access, have quicker and better access to those collections. A lot of times, if somebody needs a report or is doing a report, a student, and the interlibrary loan can take, you know, sometimes a week, whereas if it's a library that's closer to you, they can, you know, drive there, visit there, and hopefully get it that same day.
It is very much a patron benefit for those libraries that participate.
Right. And so the document as it is, obviously there were some concerns with some on with the people on the committee. And we took a look at and what the definition of reciprocity is, and how this document reflected that. So we're working on some changes so that it is an actual agreement that once you sign on to this, it is your library that is a part of this agreement, and not the entire system, and that it's not it is a voluntary decision and agreement, so that it makes it a little bit more in the definition of a reciprocal borrowing, you know, kind of a system or agreement. So you know, we are looking at ways to, or we've made some decisions to make it, to keep it as open as possible, and to keep it as functional as we can, but also make sure that it's only the libraries that sign this agreement that are affected by it, or that can take advantage of it. And some of the wording in this agreement doesn't necessarily do that. And that to make it less confusing for those libraries that join, to focus on that libraries that do join this agreement, when another library comes to that library, they will be issued the owning library's card. And let me know if I'm wrong on this, because I did sleep last night, and there's a lot of other things that have come up since then.
Yeah.
So it's just a way. Go ahead.
Sorry, Jeff, I didn't mean to interrupt. One of the things, we've had a few different technical issues, excuse me, from a software side with reciprocal borrowing. I think we all all the members were pretty much on board with what it meant to be reciprocal borrowers and what the intent of reciprocal borrowing is. But the software side wasn't quite wasn't quite living up to those expectations or to the agreement. So I think that, as Jeff mentioned, the committee's looking at revising some of the language in this agreement. And then we'll bring that revised agreement will be sent to the members before our February meeting. And we hope to adopt the new reciprocal borrowing agreement in February. If we do that, then we'll reach out to Equinox and ask them to set those permissions accordingly to align with the new agreement that's adopted in February. So a lot of this boiled down to an issue with Evergreen not handling transactions or not handling reciprocal borrowing the way that we wanted it to work in Missouri Evergreen and the way the agreement outlined it to work. And that's really where the breakdowns happened. So I just wanted to give that background as to why we are revisiting the reciprocal borrowing agreement at this time.
Yeah, very good. So, there was a lot to discuss. There was a lot to take into account. So we're hoping the final draft that we bring to you will be, one that addresses all the concerns, but also makes it more of a more inviting document or a more inviting agreement that other libraries would consider joining. I know a lot of the libraries that were in this committee, obviously we asked for these changes and we promoted these changes, and it does allow us to join this agreement, or making it more of a possibility for us to join. But we're hoping that there's only 14 members right now.
Yes.
And that's just, I think that's great for them, but I think the larger this group, the better it is. And so we hope that these changes in this draft will reflect that.
Yes, so it's 14 current libraries signed on to the reciprocal borrowing agreement, and they're listed on the Missouri Evergreen website.
Hi, this is Meredith. I had a question. If we're issuing the duplicate accounts, if they visit another library, does the language include something for whether or not if their account is blocked at their home library, but their account is still good at the library that they're visiting, or are those accounts going to act independent of each other?
No, the thought is, yeah, it's a good question. My thought is that they would have to clear up any fines or any blocks they would have at their home library before they could use this.
Okay, that's going to be a problem because the blocks and the fines are different at every library for where they get blocked and where they don't get blocked. So then do they apply under the rules of where they physically are, or do they apply under the rules of their home library that I don't necessarily know?
Well, if the
Jeff, we can. This is Steve. Sorry, Steve Campbell. We didn't actually discuss this issue, Meredith, although I know that many libraries, including mine, kind of practice this. If we have a card that's blocked under the policies, of course, of that library, whatever their limits happen to be, if their card is blocked, we don't issue them a card.
Right.
And so I think a lot of libraries operate that way. That's something we can consider adding to this. But I really think it's up to the discretion of the library. I mean, I maybe some libraries might not care, so they don't want to do that. But we can talk about it,
I was thinking more if the person gets blocked along the way, because you're not necessarily going to know that if they hand you the physical card, you scan them, their card at their home library may owe $300, but they're still checking out with you. I may be getting in the weeds here, but just curious.
Also, I have a question about that too. Whenever, and maybe I missed something earlier, but which library rules do they go by then? So like our library, we only allow 3 DVDs out at a time, but your library might allow them to check out 10. So if they come to our library, are they going to be able to check out 10 of our DVDs or just the 3?
And Lisa, you've hit the nail exactly on the head. And that's why we were thinking yesterday that you would issue a new card at your library. And when they checked out, excuse me, when they checked out with your card, they're going to be guided by all of your guidelines.
So they're going to have 2 cards.
Yeah, that's kind of where we landed. I think we still need to revisit it and hash out some details, but that was the first idea we had.
Yeah, and that was the crux of the problem is that right now, if you know, your library, whoever that who said that, sorry, I'm on a phone call, so I can't see, but if your library accepted a card from another library and they came to check out, your policies apply to that card, even though it's their card. So by issuing separate cards, then it's applying to your card is applying to your own policies. Obviously, you know, you're not going to have that problem anymore then. Does that make sense? I know this is very convoluted.
Did we confirm with Equinox that it's not possible to make the patron permissions from the home library follow them with their card? I know back in the days of Mobius with Blake, he seemed to indicate it was possible, but it was a lot of line by line coding that they didn't necessarily want to do at that time. I didn't know if that had changed, because that might be a possible avenue to explore, but it might also just be way too much work to solve the problem.
Thank you, Meredith. We did have a representative from Equinox at the meeting yesterday. She said that it was possible to create rules and permissions between our libraries and our members as we suggested or what we would like to see. She said it was possible to do that. It would be a consulting project with Equinox, and an extra, they would have to quote us a fee for that to clean up all of the permissions that were incorrect now and to align them with the new agreement as we, you know, however we adopted that agreement, whatever guidelines we set forth in that agreement. And she did say after moving forward, once that was done, it shouldn't cost any additional funds to keep it current, because new members, when they migrated in, would decide if they were going to be reciprocal borrowers, and their permissions would be set accordingly at the time of migration. But there would be a consulting project where they would audit our current permissions and then investigate how to set the permissions to uphold the new reciprocal borrowing agreement and then implement that.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you right, there might be a down the road scenario, if that is possible budgetarily and time wise, to do where we would be able to eliminate the duplicate card aspect and have the permissions from the home library follow the person wherever they went.
Yes.
That'd be awesome. Cool. Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
And Brian had a good question, that as existing libraries, aren't all ME libraries reciprocal borrowing have a reciprocal borrowing agreement, and that was the initial understanding. But again, the software, this was with, I think, was it Mobius at the time when we migrated over, we were told that that was the case, but the software just the system could not handle it. So that's how this agreement developed.
Yeah, so I'll add to that a little bit, Brian. When you sign the MOU to become a Missouri Evergreen member, you're required as a library to share all of your resources with all the other members through the Courier and resource sharing. Anything that's not a special collection or a rare collection, so like telescopes or your local history materials, are exempt from that requirement. But everything else, your DVDs, your audiobooks, your print books, all of that, as a condition of membership, you're required to share with the other members through the Courier. The reciprocal borrowing agreement is when, I'll use our library as an example. We're very close to Doniphan-Ripley County system, and we allow Doniphan-Ripley County library patrons to come in and use Poplar Bluff Library, because both Poplar Bluff and Doniphan have signed the reciprocal borrowing agreement, and they can use their Doniphan card here at Poplar Bluff to check out materials. And as Jeff used an example earlier, if they need something that day, rather than waiting for us to send the item through the Courier to their Doniphan library, they can travel to Poplar Bluff and check it out that same day. So basically, it's just a benefit for those patrons that want to get items immediately rather than place the hold and wait for the item to arrive at their home library through the Courier. So it's two different reciprocity concepts there. Did that answer your question? Okay.
But to add to that, Brian, if you have concerns about that, the direction we're headed in, if you don't want to sign on to that agreement, you don't have, have to,
Right.
obviously. If your library board is not comfortable, obviously a lot of library boards are not comfortable with
Yes.
reciprocal agreement. So if you don't want to, the way the agreement stood right now, if a library signed on to it, they would be willing to accept a library card from any other Missouri Evergreen library. we're changing that so that it only applies to libraries that are signed on. So your patrons couldn't go into another library and use their card, even if you didn't sign on to the agreement. It was kind of, in the current language, it's kind of involuntary for you. Your patrons' cards can be used anywhere that has signed on to the agreement, whether you agree with it or not. So that would be changing.
More
So
questions?
that's where we are. Yeah,
Yeah.
if there's any questions.
This is a very complex agreement. The agreement's not complex. I think implementation of the agreement is very complex. So we're still working through it. Mickey mentioned in chat that we might need to revisit and with some of the information brought forward today and after thinking about what Equinox has offered as options. But we're really working through that and we hope to have something in front of the membership by February. So any other questions for Jeff or the Reciprocal Borrowing Agreement Committee? Okay. Thank you, Jeff, so much. I know this is a really tough one and I appreciate you taking it on. Out of the committee meeting yesterday, we did think that there was another idea that should be explored. We had asked members about it, I think, when Steve Campbell sent out the membership survey as part of the Strategic Planning Committee. The idea of having more shared policies that would facilitate borrowing and reciprocal borrowing maybe more readily than the current structure that we have in place. And so we thought we might like to form a committee just to kind of begin gathering information from the members as to how likely or how much you would consider sharing policies across all of Missouri Evergreen. Again, what I'm going to recommend is that we establish a task force to start investigating that, to see where members land on that idea. So I would like to ask for volunteers to serve on, and we kind of quibbled over what we would name this, and I think we've decided it would be the Shared Policy Special Task Force of 2022. So if there are any members that feel a call to action, a call to serve, please speak now or forever hold your peace. Who would like to serve on the Special Task Force of 2022?
Shannon, I'd like to continue on with that.
Thank you.
So would I, Tony Benningfield.
Tony?
I'd like to be on that, and this is Steve Campbell. I'd like to be on that, and I'd like to point out that this is part of our strategic plan as well. One of the bullet points for that strategic plan was exploring this type of thing. So,
this is Stacy. I would also like to continue working on that as well.
Wonderful, thank you, Stacy. Anyone else? Now's the time to get more involved with the Missouri Evergreen. It's the spirit of Christmas, the time to the gift of giving. Oh, Mickey.
And this is Colleen, and I'll be on that if nobody else.
Thank you, Colleen. Anyone else? This is a big undertaking. We could use lots of hands. Okay, Mickey offered another name, Uniform Policies Exploration Task Force. So they may name
how many people are on this so far? I am not volunteering.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5.
Because I think this is a bigger deal than people may be realizing.
Of course, the first thing we'll do is do an audit. We'll ask Equinox to do an audit of what the current policies look like. As Steve Campbell kind of mentioned in yesterday's meeting, we may have more shared or like policies than we think. So it'd be nice to see just kind of where we land on the policy chart.
And when we discussed it yesterday, we acknowledged the fact that the idea of close to 60 libraries agreeing on anything is probably very remote. But like we said, we might have policies closer than we realize. It's something we want to look into and really explore and talk to libraries about. But we're realistic in the fact that getting 60 people to agree on anything is pretty difficult, and everyone has their own boards then too that they have to deal with in terms of approval of policy. So we know it's a long shot, but if we can coordinate even some of our policies, it would be nice.
Okay, well, I will send out an email to all of those who volunteered to be volunteered to be a part of this task force. And I thank each of you for contributing very much. I appreciate it. Okay, if no other discussion, I'd like to see if there's a member of Amigos in the meeting that has an update for Missouri Evergreen.
We don't have any additional information other than I'm sure with the holidays coming up, we'll be working a shorter work schedule as everybody else, and we'll be sharing that with Shannon and Sue. But the most important thing is we will be checking email and we will be checking email. So if you have any questions or concerns, make sure you use the Missouri Evergreen at amigos.org email address. And then Kristen should be back on January 4th. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Keith. I did put that email in the chat, so if anyone has any concerns for Amigos. Mala, Jane did email me this morning and say that to tell me she was not able to attend this morning's meeting. So I don't have a Mala representative here. I do know we have some serious courier concerns going on around the state. Rebecca Payne said she had to cut out early. She shared with me by email that she's going to discontinue courier service to one of her branches because of just extremely poor service. I think she said out of the last like 97 days, they've had 3 deliveries or something. It's something really outrageous. And I know that a member shared through the listserv this week that they had video footage of a courier driver tossing boxes onto the truck. So I'm sorry that Jane isn't here this morning to address your concerns. I will reach out to Jane and see if we can get more information about what Mala's doing to address some of these really egregious actions on behalf of the courier. So I'm sorry I don't have more for you this morning. Any other comments or feedback that you want me to take to Mala in relation to this or on this topic? Okay, well, an update coming soon on that. I think Robin is here with Missouri State Library. Robin, did you have an update from Missouri Evergreen this morning?
I'm trying to think if there's anything, but I've seen a lot of these folks at the MPLD meeting on, gosh, was that just last week? Thursday, Friday, and then we had a new directors meeting on Wednesday. We had a public library forum yesterday. Is there anything new since yesterday? We are, as we always do, we're reviewing grants, and we have another grant cycle opening up for tech ladder grants, and some of our long-term grants will open up later this month or early January. I do know that Mala will be working on their contract with Henry as a new grant period for them will be opening up next spring. So I know that all of these concerns will be part of the bid process that they will be going through as we look to renew our contract with Mala and their contract with the courier providers. Janet, what am I missing? I feel like there should be other things to report, but it's just, it's ARPA funds going out the door, grant applications coming in the door, the things that we've been working on for the last 18 months are just continuing.
I was just going to add specific.
Oh, go ahead, Janet.
I was going to add specific dates of when applications are due. And
see, that's what someone else does way better than me. Dates and specifics.
Yeah. So Spotlight on Literacy applications will be due January 31st. Digital imaging applications due February 15th. And technology ladder applications due March 1st.
March 1st?
Yes.
Ladder, okay.
Yes.
And as always, we will continue to provide automation grants to those libraries that are wanting to become Missouri Evergreen members. That's it. So Shannon, if anyone's got any questions or anything, we're here.
Okay, thanks, Robin. Any questions for the Missouri State Library for Robin and Janet? I will say that the new grant process for new members that are migrating in, writing those grants on their own so that they're able to get more funding for library cards, barcodes, personnel costs to update their catalog before they migrate in is working really, really well. So just hats off to the state library for thinking of that. I think that the new members are really excited about getting that extra support when they come on board and able to do a lot with a lot more than they were before. So I get a lot of positive feedback on that.
Great. That's
Absolutely.
good to
You
hear.
know, it's one of those things that this is always an evolving process. And it just logically makes sense that those grants go directly to the libraries because there's so much more involved than just the actual cost of migrating and a fee that's paid to Equinox. So we're thrilled to be able to provide that personnel and other support that's needed.
Thank you. Any other comments for the state library? No? Okay. Are there any other matters to come before the membership this morning? An hour and 20-minute meeting. That's a record. I'm so excited. It's Merry Christmas gift to me. Okay. Well, if not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Thank you, Colleen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tony. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks so much, everyone, and Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays,
See you in the new
everyone.
year. Where's he going?